The 11th and the 12th house are going to be the toughest ones for me to convey. First of all, let's look at 8 to 10 a.m. We're coming down here with Aquarius. And I put power lines. I put a picture of grids, power grids. And hopefully that'll make sense in just a minute. There's a need for the 11th house, the person born 8 to 10 a.m., or an Aquarius, to be standalone and differentiate themselves. So if you know someone of this nature, they may wear funny clothing combinations. So when they walk in, everyone, kind of catches everyone by eye. They may be a bleeding liberal, where they have to really shock everyone with the most liberal philosophy. They may be into conspiracy theories. They have to do something that really kind of sets themselves apart. They're very strong in groups, and they love groups. They love joining groups. They love organizing groups. They're generally very good, effective group organizers and or leaders. They're very much into the future. Thus, we have the concept of the liberal about, and generally, again, not trying to be political here, but generally liberals are trying to change something. Conservatives oftentimes are trying to protect something, trying to hold something the way it was. So just be aware, that's the only reason I'm saying they have a tendency to be more liberal, because they're seeing something, oh, we got to do it this way now. Now we have to have rights for our dog. Our dog must have a right. You know what I mean? They're always looking for what the next movement, the next political cause is going to be. But that's the way they're at. They're geared to the future. They're not geared to the present. Oftentimes, Sun in the 11th house shows more empathy, compassion, and care for someone at distance than they do for someone sitting right next to them. So it may be they're not so concerned about their children, they might be more concerned about those poor people in Africa and what they're going through. So we can see they're visionaries on that level, and yet maybe not the sharpest as far as what's going on in their immediate environment. And of course, they love technology. So to go back to the grid, the 11th house represents people who are into the unconscious collective memory of mankind. Now that's a mouthful. Too much to talk about, but it represents, if you can imagine, if in your head you knew the history of mankind, you understood the whole concept of where we've come from and all the different movements. So if we kind of think that someone could be holding access to that type of information, those power lines and the grids cutting across the desert, when you go to California and you look along the desert and you see those power lines, the transference of memory from long ago going over long distances. So it's a very, again, quite an intangible thought there, but you'll generally find the 11th house person definitely separates themselves. They're definitely thinking a little bit differently than the mainstream are, but they're leading it, so to speak. They oftentimes have a little eccentric quality to them as well. And they're channelers. Now there's a wild word. Channelers, yes, could they be a channeler that you go to and they're going to channel insights and information to you? Possibly. But more likely, they're going to be here at the lecture today on astrology, and I'll have said something that made them think about how they were going to go home and fix the plumbing at their house. They were very good at, what do birds and bees do? They cross-pollinate. Very good at cross-pollinating. They go to one thing and they get inspired to go way over here and do something totally different. So they're very good at picking up language and how, and protocol from one industry and go over to another industry and incorporate it. And they're very good at manifesting. Sun's in the 11th house. I love it when they come to me because I ask them, do you have a lot of toys? And they generally do. They have a real quality of acquiring material goods. Again, go back to the 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 11th house. They all have a connection to money in that regard. Now this is just a great story, and I think it's just a one-of-a-kind one. This is a client that I worked with in the 80s, and she told me the story then. And she left, she became a Catholic nun. And she wasn't in the sisterhood more than a couple of years. And those of you who have a Catholic background would really remember this. But in the 60s, the Ecumenical Council came through and they defrocked the nuns. Remember, they had these beautiful, elaborate gowns, veils. Very nice, very high quality. And in the Ecumenical Council, they kind of liberated nuns and said, you know what, you can wear your own clothes now. You don't need to wear all this garb. And by the way, that little veil, you can make your own. So she tells the story. This is Kathleen. She says, here I am in the convent, Mary. They come out and say, okay, we're not going to wear our garb anymore. By the way, son in the 11th house loves to differentiate herself. She loved the garb. She loved the idea of walking down the street and being in this garb. And everyone, oh, it's a nun, right? They defrocked her. And they said, by the way, we've got these Clorox bleach bottles, and we've got this template, and we're going to cut this plastic piece out of the round Clorox bleach bottle, and then that's going to be the headdress of your new veil. And then we're going to buy this material, and we're going to, attach it to the back of this piece of plastic, and this is now your headdress. She says, Mary, I knew that day I was out of the nuns. I no longer had any interest in being a nun. Now, I thought that was pretty wild because, you think they're dedicated to, Christ and poverty and all these things, but sun in the 11th house, they have a need. And all of a sudden, the idea of being dressed like everybody else, except for the Clorox plastic headband, but the idea of being dressed in street clothes, walking around, all of a sudden it lost all of its honor and glory. She said, I'm out. Guess what she was? She was a teacher, of course, being a nun. It was easy. She started teaching. And even in the 80s, she was just moving into, she became a financial advisor. This woman has bought and sold more pieces of property. She's a magnet for money, making money, buying big, expensive toys in her life. And it's very funny when you realize Catholic nun to a very successful financial planner. Seems like opposite, but again, it's a great story. Now notice here, it's her sun, Mercury, Jupiter, and Neptune all sitting in that 11th house. But you know immediately when you see a focus in that 11th house, you know they have a group association. I think this was just another one I threw in because it's a little complicated house to kind of convey to people. This is a school teacher here in the Las Vegas Valley. She puts together a program every Christmas where she gets a program that has grown exponentially, but she's very into giving the children goodies and toys for Christmas. And it's a huge event, and she's done it all, and it's a pretty amazing what she's taken under. But she's very much into groups, getting people together behind a cause. This is what we need. These are what the kids need. And then there's this abundance, overabundance, this overkill almost of the presence, the amount of presence that these kids receive. It's the goodie house, though, right? People have goodies. They have toys when it comes into that 11th house.